think a lot of people are intimidated because they don't know what they're signing up for. If I think about people that are famous or have a personal brand, the stuff that's like bad that came out about them, I still remember. And like, even after they die, people still remember them. I think the thing that really stops me is I don't know if I can reverse it. I don't know if like when I go full in, if I can ever go back.
That's the risk of doing anything of consequence. If you want to be an anonymous person and not be consequential, then you don't run that risk. But anybody who does anything consequential runs the risk of what they do can be interpreted as both good and bad. And that's going to follow you around.
Okay, so if I have a really strong personal brand, what are some other benefits of it?
Welcome back, everybody. This is episode 2 of this ongoing dialogue with Matt Essam. He's a friend and a person who coaches for the Futur community. And we've been talking a lot about personal branding. So if you haven't done so, it's really important that you go and listen to the previous episode. We'll include the link to that episode down below in the description. The reason why is because in episode 1, we kind of set the general framework for understanding or having the proper mindset around building a personal brand. We went through probably more of what it isn't versus what it is. And so naturally, we've taken a short break here and we're back. So Matt has a lot of thoughts and questions. And so I hope to continue to dive down deeper into this. As a quick recap, I make the distinction that branding isn't about marketing. Marketing is about how you get sales, how you get conversions, how you get customers, how you make money. And this is a very important endeavor, but we should not mix these two activities up. And oftentimes it is mixed up. I believe that when we are talking about building a brand, it's a long-term thing without clear definitions of return on investment. But what you're doing is you're finding out more about yourself and putting more of yourself out into the world. And you're aligning yourself with people in your tribe who believe what you believe in. And it's like you holding space. It's like the digital campfire, and you're the storyteller, and people gather around you to hear stories and to find communion or community in the group that gathers around you. And it's relational. It's not transactional. And so that's as much as I can say without like redoing the entire episode. Sorry to interrupt the episode. I want to let you know that I'm starting this community where we're going to help people just like you, experts, authors, and coaches to develop your personal brand. It's called Content Lab. So for more information on that, just check out the links in the description. Now back to our show. So having said that, Matt, where do we pick up the conversation?
I think I would love to pick up the conversation around content, because I think a lot of people, myself included, aren't 100% clear on what content to be creating in order to build the right kind of personal brand, but also to have an impact at the same time. Mm-hmm. And also, I guess the other thing is like, how do you know where to draw the line between what to share and what not to share?
Yeah. And I think in the video that you shared with me prior to this conversation, kind of offline, was this thing about, hey, I know a couple of people who seem to have a very strong personal brand who aren't doing what you're saying, but yet this and this is happening for them. Maybe before we get into all the questions that you have, let's start there. Who is a person that we might both know, or at least you could describe to me, where we may have differing points of view as whether or not they have a strong personal brand? Can you talk about these people by name or?
Yeah, I was just thinking that. There's someone that I would like to mention who was a coach and a mentor of mine. And so you probably don't know him by name. And I'm pretty sure it's cool to talk about him because he talks about this stuff online. But his name's Dan Bolton, right?
Okay.
So you've probably never heard of Dan Bolton, right?
No.
So to give you some context, because you do know who Taki Moore is.
I do.
Dan Bolton used to be Taki's head coach for Black Belt. And so I think I came across Dan through Taki. And the reason I bring him up is because I worked with Dan for probably over a year. And what fascinated me about him was that he had a very small following. So he still only has, and I actually wrote it down here just so I wasn't like making up numbers, 5.6K followers on YouTube and less than 15,000 on Instagram. And when I first started working with him, it was way less than that. I think he had less than 1,000 subs on YouTube and he had about 5,000 on Instagram. He was someone I followed because I felt I could really relate to him. Like I felt like I knew him before I'd even met him through some of the content that he was putting out online. He's very good at writing, but for people listening, for some context, and the reason why I want to have this conversation is because I know for a fact, because I've seen his like Stripe accounts and stuff, and he used to talk about it quite publicly, that he made about 120,000 US dollars a month in net profit from a small community of people, basically. And they all raved about him. They all raved about his philosophy, the way he lived his life. And so I think I've always equated in my mind, when you talk about personal branding, or when I hear people talk about personal branding, it's like, oh, I have to be like a Hormozy, or I have to be a Chris Do, or I have to be a Stephen Bartlett before I get any kind of level of success. So I guess to start with, like picking up from where we left off, can you just speak to audience size versus kind of impact and income, and how personal brand is related to those three
Sure.
things?
Yeah, let's break it down. I don't think there's any connection between audience size and income. Somebody could be the most unknown person who do $100 billion a year, and we would never know about them, and they'd be very successful. But we would kind of argue that they don't have a personal brand.
Yeah.
Because no one knows about them. So part of the personal brand is having the reputation that precedes you in life and on social. Now, I'm going to sound like I'm being a little vague and mushy about this, but let's talk about it, okay? Everybody that knows you has an impression of you. And even the barista at the coffee shop who sees you every once a day has an impression. He's kind, he's not kind, he's very curt, and that's part of your brand. And if we were to somehow get the 100 people that know you, your family, your friends, your partner, your coworkers, and we kind of assess what they all think of you, we would get some sense of your brand. What we would do is we throw away the edge cases where people are like, he's super generous, but only 2 people have said that, or he's a total a-hole and only 2 people said that. We kind of look at the thing in the middle. And that's you having your personal brand, and everyone has something like that. But we won't call it personal brand. We just call it, you have a reputation. It's not until this reputation exceeds your immediate primary and secondary circle of people that you know that we start to say, like, you have a personal brand. So the people that don't know you, haven't interacted with you, already have an impression of you. And there's lots of ways we can do this. In the old school way, it'd be to appear on TV, or to be in a movie, or to have articles written about you, or for you to write a book, and then people read your book and they understand a lot about who you are. And from the little photo that they included on the inside of the jacket of the book, probably an old photo, probably you looking at your best. That's usually how these things are done. They're like, oh, I know who Matt is, sort of. They couldn't recognize you on the street. They couldn't point to you. Nobody's going to let you in a bar because, like, oh, you must be Matt Essam because I've read your book. It doesn't usually work like that. And there's some kind of critical mass. Now, I'm going to borrow a little bit from Marty Neumeier, and I will, as often the case when we talk about branding, is when enough people come to a similar gut feeling about who you are, then you have a brand. And that's deliberately vague and nebulous, because what is enough people? We don't know. But we know it when we know it. We can tell, right? And so when your reputation precedes you, and that expression, Mr. Essam, your reputation precedes you, sir. And you're like, well, thank you, kind sir. And you have that, whoa, people are talking about you when you're not in the room.
Okay. So could
now you could be the
brand...
poorest person, by the way. You could be the
Okay.
poorest person, broke, living hand to mouth, and have amazing personal brand. They're not connected. Conversely, you could be the most unknown person, be the richest mother effer in the world, and have no personal brand. They're not connected concepts, and we have to decouple these ideas.
So could personal brand and personal reputation be interchanged? As in, like, they have the same meaning almost?
Well, there has to be some differentiation, because everyone has a personal reputation. Not everyone has a personal brand. My mom has a reputation. She ain't got a brand. In fact, very few people actually have a personal brand. They might think they do, but they really don't. All this is aided in the age of media. And I don't think anything's really changed here, because media has existed in newspaper, in radio, and on television, and in cinema. But what has changed is the democratization and access of the platforms, the distribution channels. Distribution channels used to be owned by a few people who are quite wealthy, and they get to be king or queen maker, right? If you appeared on Oprah, whether you had a product, or if you're a psychologist or an actor, an actress, whatever it is, all of a sudden you made it. You can literally call your friends that I've made it. I'm on Oprah, everybody. I'm on the cover of Wall Street Journal. I'm not being indicted, right? You've made it. So these old benchmarks, and they're still considered benchmarks because it's legacy trusted media, still carries a lot of weight because every Yahoo can be on the internet. So if you have those markers, if you've won an Academy Award, if you won a Grammy, it says you've made it. So this is another classic example. People have never seen the movie, but they tout Academy Award nominated actor, best film, blah, blah, blah. And they use that. And that's a shorthand for people to say, oh, their peers think of them very highly. We should go and watch this film. And that's why movie studios care so much about being considered for an award, because it's marketing for them. Because people we trust or institutions we trust have anointed this as being trustworthy, as being worth your money and your time. Okay, so everyone has a personal reputation. Not everyone has a personal brand. And you can try to prove me wrong, and we could just see if you can punch holes in this observation I have.
I don't think you're wrong, but I think it would be useful for me to understand some distinctive characteristics or some distinctive elements between a reputation and a personal brand. Like if I had almost like a checklist.
I have some for you because I've thought about this. Okay. Do people outside of your vertical or your industry know about you at all? That's usually a good sign that you have a personal brand.
Do people outside of your, say that again?
Do people outside of your vertical or your industry know who you are?
And what's
because you could say
just to remind
vertical, like okay, let's take I don't know Dan Bolton, but I do know Taki Moore. Mm-hmm. Taki's well known within the coaching community. Outside of that, he's not known at all, I don't think. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he has fairly low reach and engagement on all of his social medias. So he's reaching a very small group of people. He's making a ton of money, but he's not really well known outside of that. So if you were to walk to random people and like, you know, Taki, and everybody would be like, no. In fact, I'm not trying to like to make a bigger deal out of this, but Taki went to one of my workshops. I didn't even know who Taki was. And he walked up to me. He's like, I can help you. And I'm like, you're just a guy in my class right now. You seem to be a person that I should pay attention to because of how attentive you are. But I didn't know who Taki was.
Was he barefoot?
I had no idea.
Is that why he got your attention?
He got my attention because of something really strange. And this speaks a lot about who he is as a person, I believe. Amy, who you know, my head of business affairs, she had an ice cream bar in her mouth and she was eating it. And I'm like, oh, Amy. And this is in front of the workshop. I'm like, excuse me, I didn't know we were serving ice cream. She goes, we're not. I got it down to the street. And I'm like, oh, okay. Oh, awesome. That's really cool. You know what Taki did? He got up barefoot, sprinted out. I didn't know this. Went to that store to buy an ice cream bar and says, Chris, I got you an ice cream bar. I'm lactose intolerant. I wasn't saying I want an ice cream bar. I was like, oh, I was just surprised and delighted that somebody has an ice cream bar. And I just gave it to the next person. But that caught my attention right away. And he also like stood up and walked around, kind of paced around the room. He goes, hey, Chris, I'm so sorry. I'm ADD. I'm ADHD. I can't sit still. Is that okay? I'm like, dude, move as much as you want. There's no rules. So he goes, okay, thank you. So nice. That's number 2. Number 3, he's literally approached me in the bathroom. He said, I know this is a weird place to talk. And I looked down, he's barefoot in the bathroom. I'm like, this is
You're never supposed to look
out.
Down in the bathroom, Chris. You know, that's number 1.
Well, we're not in front of the urinal. We're just passing, right? But I'm like, this floor is probably the dirtiest place you can imagine. And you're literally exposing yourself to everything. I hope you don't have any cuts on your feet, but that's the Asian OCD in me. I'm like, ooh. So those 3 things were what made him remarkable.
Okay.
Yeah.
So putting Taki aside for a second, let's go back.
Yeah.
So do people outside of the number 1 was, do people outside of your vertical or your industry, are they different things or are they the same thing? Vertical / industry?
They're the same. They're interchangeable, I think. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. So do people outside of your industry know who you are is number 1?
Yes. I think it's one of them. Yes.
Okay. What are some of the others?
The other thing is I'll broadly describe is this your ability to just print money. When you attach your name to something, that thing becomes valuable and people will buy it. Like your name means something. Okay. Again, it has to be outside of what you already do. So if Taki, again, puts his name on a limited edition desk accessory set for creatives, and that thing has more value than what it was in the material goods in terms of the labor and the cost of production, then you could say he has a pretty strong personal brand.
Yeah.
And so you can essentially print money. I was thinking about somebody today. His name is Cleon Peterson, and he's an artist. And he used to be, quote unquote, a graphic designer, illustrator, right? And Cleon has emerged as a fine artist. He does giant murals, and he has a very distinctive style. And he recently released a resin sculpture of one of his characters, quite famous. Like, if you know who he is, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It retails for like $800. He took pre-orders for it. I think it sold over 240 units. We can all do the math here. Roughly 1,000 times 240, it's $240,000. He was able to make money like that. And I was sitting there thinking, this is an incredible power that somebody has based on the fandom that he's been able to create. And if he wanted a $10 million payday, he would just design like 20 of these statues or more, or 40, and then he would have $10 million. If
Okay,
the market
can I just interrupt for a second then? So,
Yeah.
but is that not within his
It is
niche
within his thing.
in his industry? Yeah.
Now it starts to get real interesting because he's a muralist and he does prints. So he's moving into three-dimensional forms, which is a little bit different. And he also does commission pieces for restaurants, and at some point his ideas, his drawings will become like a textile, like a print that a famous fashion designer can use, or a home accessories company can use. And so now he's starting to transcend his niche. I look at his niche as like a guy who puts work in a gallery, and he's starting to move outside of that. And it's quite interesting. So the ability to print money outside of like the service that you provide. So for example, if Taki is doing one-on-one coaching, that's not printing money. He's literally working for it. But if somebody else said, hey, I got a book, Taki, or a framework, or a fidget spinner kind of device, can we do the Taki More signature edition? And that thing has value, even though it's inside of his industry. I say like he's moving towards that, and for sure he's starting to elevate, right? Here's another example. And you're like, yeah, it's all the same, Chris. Or maybe it's not. One of my favorite bands is called 21 Pilots. In 2024, I think they dropped Breach, and it was the highest selling rock album of the year. And it reminded me of something. I like went to their 21 Pilots store, and they sell merch, of course, t-shirts and things. So they make music, they create a live experience for us. Merch transcends that, because now I have some other version of that by them applying their name, their brand assets to something. A t-shirt is $30. We know that the manufactured price of that is probably like $5 or $6 at most. At scale, it's even less. But they've created $25 of additional value because they've attached some version of their brand essence or brand assets onto that thing. If Taki put it on a t-shirt or a cap and people paid money for that above the value of what it costs to manufacture, I'm pretty sure he has a strong personal brand.
Okay. So somebody outside your niche or outside your industry knows who you are. Your ability to add value, because like print money I totally get, but it's more, it sounds, it's like it's more about your ability to add value to an asset by just using your brand, i.e. The Rock releases a tequila, and all of a sudden that tequila has more value because The Rock has his name on it.
Yeah, and literally doesn't even have his name as Terramana. So I don't, but he's endorsing it. Just like Ryan Gosling. No, Ryan Reynolds with Mint Mobile, right?
Or with like anything that he touches, the football team.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah. Are there any more?
I'm sure there are. I will think of them as we go, but those are pretty strong signs. Like you have reached beyond your vertical. And when you add your name, your brand to something, it adds more value to that thing.
So there's like two parts of me here. There's one part of me that I'm like, this really resonates, and I can kind of see, I can really see what you're talking about. And there's another part of me that's going, basically what you're saying is like, when you're famous. Like a personal brand is like when you're famous enough.
Yeah. I guess. I'm a little nervous to use the word fame, but just well known enough. Yeah.
Which is super interesting because I have a lot of resistance towards that. Like if you gave me two choices and you said you can be a Dan Bolton that does 150K a month and like hit this little small group of people love you, and when you walk into a restaurant nobody knows who you are.
Yeah.
But there's a certain group of people that do, and they're already happy with you and you're delivering loads of value to their lives and they're getting amazing results,
Yeah.
versus when you go into a restaurant, people know who you are and give you a table because of who you are. Like
Yeah.
definitely this one is more appealing to me. And I think I might be wrong because I can't
What's the
speak for other
downside
people.
of having both? And why did you pick the restaurant? Because it's the more concrete example isn't the restaurant. I'll give you a better example, possibly.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And now what Dan Bolton is doing is just running a really profitable business.
Yeah.
Not an easy thing to do. When I say just, I mean, he doesn't need a brand. He doesn't want a brand. He's not building a brand. He's just building a business. And that's something that's admirable. And he's making a lot of money doing that. One could even argue he's building a lifestyle business, one that supports what he wants to do at his own schedule, but he's not trying to be a gazillionaire doing it.
Hmm.
Where it gets real interesting is if Dan Bolton were being invited to speak at conferences and people were telling event organizers so he doesn't have to pursue it, hey, you should really get Dan. He's an amazing XYZ.
Well, that's the interesting thing. So when I came out to LA, because he's good friends with so basically he grew up as a youth pastor, and it might be that like this is an edge case. It might be that there was like so many cards not stacked in his favor because he had a really tough upbringing and background, but like he started as a youth pastor, so he was like really used to talking to people. One of his first jobs out of school was like he was a sex ed teacher. I think before he was like 17 or 18 or something, right? So he had all these experiences. And I can't remember the guy's name. I want to say Ewan McManus or something. He's like really big in LA. He's
Erwin
like,
McManus.
yeah, Owen. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's like Owen's like one of his mentors, and so he invites him to speak. And Dan actually gets a lot of speaking opportunities, and he also gets a lot of opportunities with like high profile people. So I know he coached like Mike Posner, for example, for a while, and things like that. So the reason I'm kind of confused, and you could say to me, it sounds, Matt, like this is an edge case, but I guess I'm just exploring people that I know in my world where I'm like, that seems pretty sweet to me, and kind of no one really knows who he is, but he's still getting these speaking gigs, maybe just because he's an amazing speaker and his reputation does precede him in the speaking circuit. He's have a really profitable business. He has an amazing lifestyle. Like that's something that feels like pretty envious, versus someone who's going to get stopped on the street or someone who's going to get recognized and maybe get
Yeah, I think you're
more.
focused too much on the recognizing on the street part, which is not what
Okay.
even famous people don't want that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because they want their privacy. So we're seemingly stuck on this one issue. So let's table that for right now. Let's continue the conversation. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Let's unpack this. I don't know Dan from anybody. Okay.
Yeah.
I do know Erwin McManus, and people in the ministry space, pastors, they're the ones that are really good are great, amazing public speakers. We know that. Having a speaking opportunity within the church, because they're literally every single week that they happen, because that's what happens with church, right?
Mm-hmm.
And doing that within your space seems fairly common. I would say that that's a sign that you're doing something right, but I wouldn't say that that's necessarily you developing a personal brand outside of your vertical. So your youth pastor speaking within the ministry to other of the flock, it's really all within the same vertical, in my opinion. Number two, one of the criteria is, I think, to be considered a successful public speaker or a professional public speaker, that has to be your profession, meaning like you're being paid to do it and you don't have to do other things if you just wanted to live on that. Right. So if Dan is being invited to speak in churches and congregations and he's doing it for free, it's actually costing him more than it is that he's getting.
Well, just to clarify, he started as a youth pastor, and that's how he knows Owen. But like now, he gets invited to Miami and all these different places to speak, and gets paid to go and like run workshops for people and stuff. Kind of the stuff that we were talking about last week. So just to clarify,
right. So one could say, I don't have much of a personal brand if I'm a graphic designer and I speak at graphic design conferences. Now, if I'm the guy who gets the premier closing opening keynotes and they're paying me the most amount of money, you can start to argue like your reputation is getting bigger and bigger. and you've transcended. So the next criteria, I think, is you stand on top of the vertical that you're in. You're not just another graphic design person who's speaking. You're the graphic designer who's speaking about this. And so that would be the third dimension here that we're going to add. Okay. That you are not peerless, but you're at the top 5, top 3% of the people doing what you do. So your personal reputation has exceeded that, so that you've now become, at least within your peers, a household name.
Yeah.
That is one of the criteria as well. Again, I think the reason why I want to have this conversation with you is because if you were to able to run a great lifestyle business and be content and happy with that, which sounds like that's what you want, we don't need to work on personal brand. You just need to get your business in order and do what you got to do. And be content with that. And there are millions of businesses like that where we've never heard of the person. They're doing really well in their life and they don't have to work that much. There are some downsides to that, but we can talk about that later. But that's fine. And the reason why I wanted to talk to you is because you're like a fish who doesn't want to go to the boat. And I'm the fisherman trying to bring you to the boat, but you're like, you're peeling out the line, and you sometimes come in because you're curious, but they're like, no, and you just run it again. And I'm like, well, I think there are a lot more people out there listening that are more like you than there are that are like, I'm all in, Chris. Where do I sign up? Let's do this thing. Right. I mean that as an example, not literally to do with me. Okay. So we have to still continue to understand. So if you can rub the magic lamp and have the business that you want and do $120,000 a month in net profit or whatever you want, and just be anonymous and just continue to work for the rest of your life doing this, if that's your jam, I think you just get your business in order.
Do you believe, though, that somebody in the coaching and consulting space that wants to build, say, a community and that wants to build tools that really help people can do that as easily without a personal brand?
Say that one more time.
Do you think somebody like me in the coaching and consulting space can build a 7-figure business as easily as somebody who has a personal brand?
Not as easily, but it's possible. I know this is going to sound really weird and disconnected from reality. I know, everybody. I apologize. I send all your hate letters to Matt after this. I'll give you his personal email. Because I believe that in this world with so many opportunities that we have, especially if you have some resources behind you, if you have a roof over your head, if you have a stable family life and you have some money you can invest, you have internet access and infrastructure built in like roads and things like that, the ability to make between $100,000 and $1 million a year is not as difficult as it used to be.
I agree.
Right? I mean, if all I ever wanted to do was make $1 million a year net, it's not that hard for me. And so I think there's bigger challenges here, ones that will pay way more than what I'm looking at now. And to take, for example, Hormozi and his book launch, where I think he did $100 million in 48 hours in terms of sales. That's a remarkable feat from a person who understands how to potentially play the brand game so well so that people feel indebted to you that they will buy 200 copies of your book to give to people they don't even know yet. That's pretty incredible. Okay. So yes, for sure, you can do it. It will not be as easy for you to do it, but there's something that's much bigger than what we're talking about here, which is what happens when Matt stops working in his life. Matt will make no more money. Matt won't have any assets that are something that he can sell. Generally speaking, okay? Matt won't be able to, I mean, maybe that's not fair to say, but there are passive income vehicles or ways for you to leverage your expertise, what people like about you, your community, that go beyond this. I didn't know this, but somebody who's in the education space told me, you know what universities do with all the students that they reject? They sell that list to another university that their recruiters go after. Okay, because they have, they're oversubscribed. They have more people who want to go to that university that can't. They accept the 10,000 or 5,000 students. And then the 110,000 applicants that they rejected, they sell to another university who needs those names. And so now they're making money off that. They're building a different kind of business now versus just collecting tuition for the students they can teach. But I think number 4 in if you have a personal brand is, can you jump verticals? So when you're done doing what you're doing, it no longer interests you because your personal brand is so strong. You're like, hey guys, I'm going to do this thing now. It's not quite related to what I did before. And then the people are like, we're right there with you. Example, Ryan Reynolds, The Rock. They're not selling acting. They're not selling a 90-minute piece of linear entertainment. They're selling alcohol. They're selling mobile phone plans. They're selling wallets. They're selling, I don't know what they're selling. They can sell anything at this point. And the pitch isn't that hard. They just say, I'm doing this. And because we feel an affinity, a connection towards them, that all things being equal, we'd rather buy from them than their competitor. That's what a brand is.
Yeah. So I guess we're still kind of, maybe to people listening, it kind of still sounds like we're stuck on this like whole, am I fully into the personal brand thing? And I guess
I can tell you're not.
No, I know, but what I mean is like that was supposed to be episode 1 and episode 2 was supposed to be, okay, how does this thing work? But
no. I like this though.
Okay.
I really do, because I don't believe any one person's going to listen to one episode and like, that's it. I was anti and now I'm all for. Some people are like that, but those are the early adopters, the innovators, the people who move really quick. But the middle majority are still like, no, I'm with Team Matt. I don't want to be famous. I don't want to be recognized on the streets. And I don't want to have somebody come up to me when I'm trying to have my own personal space. And to a degree, I don't think a lot of people want that, by the way. That's a side effect from this other thing happening for you, which is opportunities are being created for you without you even trying. That's where you get into the magic sweet spot. Like event organizers are conspiring right now to figure out how to get you and who they got to call in order to get an introduction so that they can work with you. And there are people who are saying, Matt, I know you have this one program, but what's it going to cost for me to work with you on the highest level? And they're creating demand for things you don't even think about. And there's a brand somewhere in the works, somewhere in the background saying, we have a product launch. I think we need to get this guy involved with this because it's aligned with what he stands for and his audience is amazing. Let's broker a deal. Those are the things that are happening. The consequence of some of this happening is you do lose some of your privacy. Some, but that's all manageable too, by the way.
Okay. So can we I think this would be helpful for me and people listening. Like personal brand advantages, like you just went through. These are some of the things that are happening for you. Disadvantages, These are some of the things that will also come with that. And then the same for this idea of this like lifestyle business, just so we can really, I think a lot of people are intimidated because they don't know what they're signing. Well, I mean, I'm intimidated because I don't know what I'm signing up for.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't know if I can check out. I think the thing that really stops me is I don't know if I can reverse it. I don't know if like when I go full in and become quote unquote famous, even though I know that's not what you're saying, but like when you have that level of recognition, if I can ever go back, like if I think about people that are famous or have a personal brand and are able to do all the things that you do, the stuff that's like bad that came out about them, I still remember. And like, even after they die, people still remember them. And like for some people, that's great. They want a legacy, but also at the same time, it's like you never really switch off. You can't put what's the phrase? Like you open Pandora's box, like you can't put the
genie back in the bottle.
Yeah, you can't put the genie back in the bottle, right?
Yeah. But you know what? That's the risk of doing anything of consequence. Period. If you want to be an anonymous person and not be consequential, then you don't run that risk. But anybody who does anything consequential runs the risk of what they do can be interpreted as both good and bad. And that's going to follow you around. Look, if you were, I don't know, in the vicinity of a crime scene and you did the cowardly thing and people saw that and it has nothing to do with building a personal brand. It was on TV and they're like, hey, here's a guy who like left 4 kids and an orphan and a mom and just ran away. That's going to follow you for a long time. You have to disappear for a while because, you know, the thing is people's memories are not that strong. We're bombarded with new things we're supposed to remember. And so it will disappear. But I do want to address the one issue here, which is there are a bunch of OG YouTubers. Nobody talks about it anymore. Nobody even looks them up. So you can put the genie back in the bottle. It's not even by their choice. They're either canceled, they're no longer relevant. And we can see this. I don't want to name names because I'm not trying to badmouth anybody, but sometimes I'm like, I wonder what happened to that person. I look them up. They're still making content. It's just like nobody's talking about them anymore. Right. So I don't know if you know this. There's a Japanese quote unquote physicist, it's pseudoscience stuff, that measures the impact of positive and negative energy. It's the frozen lake experiment. Do you know about this?
No.
Okay, well, I learned a little bit more about this because Erwin McManus, bringing his name back up, shared a story at one of the conferences I went to. And he goes, they took 3 jars of fermented rice, cooked rice. They put it in 3 jars, and there's controls like jar A. One person would go into it, isolated from the other 2, and would just yell negative thoughts at it. It would criticize it. They would criticize it. They would just say not positive things to it. And then 1 jar of cooked rice, they would say positive things, affirmations, words of appreciation, admiration, those kinds of things. And the 3rd jar is part of the control that did nothing to it. So let's see how it turns out. So after some time has passed, the jar of rice that received positive affirmations fermented into this beautiful, savory rice wine, whatever it is, whatever happens to rice when it ferments. And then the one that received all this negative energy started to have black mold in it. So since you've not heard this story before, what happens to the control?
Nothing. It just stays the same.
It actually has twice the rate of black mold in it.
Wow.
See, and that's the same reaction I had, which was, no, it's probably cool. Nothing, very, very little has happened to it. And so in this life, it's best to receive positive energy, but it's worse to receive nothing, to be ignored, to know that your life, everything you do does not matter at all. So I would choose positive energy, and then I would choose negative energy. And the thing that we don't want to do is just be completely ignored, like we're not relevant at all. Yeah. So those creators who created something, who got some positive stuff, they got some negative stuff, and then they probably hated that negative stuff until they got no attention at all.
Yeah. Well,
that is probably the worst thing, right?
Famous phrase, right? Which is like, there's only one thing worse than everyone talking about you behind your back, and that's no one talking about you at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. So before we just do like the positives and negatives, because I'm going to make sure we come back to this. Yeah. Is there a spectrum? Because when I hear you talk, it sounds like it's like you either made it and you have all these things, or you don't. Whereas when I see people building, I'm not going to use the word personal brand because I don't know if I understand it yet well enough to even use it in context. But let's say notoriety within a niche. So attacky more. It seems like they have a lot of the benefits of what you're talking about without the downsides, because they're still recognized by a small group of people who they care about, who they want to impact. They're highly respected. Their reputation precedes them within that niche. But outside of that, they don't have all of those other things. So is there like a spectrum?
Yeah, they're just, like I said, I don't want to use this word just to diminish, but they are good business operators. There's people who build amazing boats. You don't know them. Everybody in the industry, if you want a boat built, you would know them, but that's it. They're not known outside their vertical. They cannot leverage very likely their brand until they're able to move forward. Here's a really good example, I think. Do you know who Sean Stussy is?
No.
You must have seen the T-shirts where it says Stussy.
Oh, yes,
kind of
yes.
Like, yes, now you know, right?
Yeah.
So Sean Stussy is considered the godfather of streetwear. And from what I remember, he's a California guy. He shapes surfboards, and he's quite well known for shaping surfboards, right? And of course, to create some kind of brand around the surfboard, he wants to put his name. So he remembers his uncle has like a really cool way of signing his name. So he asked his uncle, can I use the way that you write Stussy as part of my brand? And so he put this on the surfboards, and people who surfed, that he shaped really great surfboards. And then I think, and this is where it gets a little murky for me, I think he puts it on a T-shirt, and then people are like, whoa, that's connected to the surf shaper. But now there are people who are buying the shirt because it looks cool and it's connected to this idea of surfing, the lifestyle and the culture, but have no idea who he is, that they even want to buy a surfboard. And he goes on to influence the entire streetwear industry, goes to Japan, influences an unknown creator named Nigo, hangs out with Pharrell and all these people, and they start to build this thing. And it's called the Stussy Posse, International Posse, right? And he does this thing. So now we've gone so far beyond a guy who makes surfboards and to a brand, and he has something that lives beyond him that he could buy and sell and trade, which he's sold his company to. Sold his company away years ago, and this is what has happened. So if he is the shaper of boards, people in his vertical will know he could be quite wealthy, running a great lifestyle business, but the story kind of ends there. I don't know Taki that well, but I believe he's the Stussy before he starts doing t-shirts. In a vertical, just like Dan, you're really well known, you make a good amount of money, and you just keep doing your thing.
So I would say a lot of people that I meet and I coach, even people who are like ex-Disney executives, like have Spotify and Sony Music as clients, I think a lot of them just want that first.
Yeah.
Because like they've done amazing work and they're still not quite, they're getting there. Like one of my clients gets invited to do a lot of design talks, and his studio is growing and bigger, but like they probably just want that. They probably just want like, and that's why I like.
What is that? Define that.
That is to be one of the most well-known, well-respected insert thing, designer, animator, whatever, in their industry, so that they don't have to go chasing for work and like the clients come to them and they get invited to talks and things like that.
Yeah.
But beyond that, until they get there, I think it feels like a phased thing for me. It feels like something that you reach when you're like, well, I'm super successful. Like I've achieved all this stuff. Like what's next? Like what impact do I really want to make? Versus, it's kind of like the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Like if you don't have your shelter,
correct,
you probably don't care about self-actualization.
Yeah, I would agree. If you can't pay rent and buy food, you're not thinking about self-actualization.
Yeah. And I think it's the same in a way, just based on what you're describing. Like I haven't thought about it in this way before, because I think a lot of people online, they really do try and link this idea of personal brand to income and personal brand to opportunity and personal brand to wealth. And
Yeah.
I think what you're doing is kind of separating those things, if I understand correctly.
That is correct. And there's a reason why they think that, by the way. And I'm going to use a violent term because there are a lot of pretenders, hucksters, con people who don't understand anything about anything, who feel like this is a buzzword they can jump on and repackage what they do and call it personal branding. When some people are just looking to help you book more speaking opportunities. Like, I don't think the people who are doing that, they're called agents, by the way, public speaking agent, literary agent, that kind of thing. They didn't call themselves running a personal branding program. And now they're starting to use that. Some of them, not the accomplished ones, obviously, but the wannabes. That's what they call it now. And so they promise you, have a full inbox, 10x your revenue. They're using all the language of marketing and sales, but then they wrap it under this thing called personal branding. So it's very confusing in the marketplace. And I would say for every 100 people who are talking about personal branding, I think 3 people might understand it the way I understand it, and 97 would be the opposite. That's why I'm so clear about, like, this isn't it. You guys, if you want to do that, go pursue that. That's fine. I got no hate for that. But when people use terms sloppily and to look at opportunities and kind of make it deliberately vague and blurry, then that creates confusion in the marketplace, right? For example, a person who runs Facebook ads for you could make those same promises to you. Matt will get more people in your coaching program. We'll make sure that you're doing 100,000 monthly recurring revenue and an 87% of it will be profitable. And we're going to build your personal brand. No, you run Facebook ad campaigns and there's glory and nobility in doing that. I respect you. I salute you. Let's not call it personal brand building. Because if a term means everything, then the term means nothing.
Yeah, I think it's a really good point. I think a lot of people need to hear that, because I think a lot of people are in my camp where the terminology and the idea was fairly new to me until I read like Key Person of Influence maybe 6 or 7 years ago, right? And Dan was definitely a pioneer in that thing. But like as you're talking, Dan's not even really talking about personal branding either. He's actually talking about becoming a key person of influence in your industry. And these are the things that you have to do. And I actually think that formula, if anyone wants the things that we just said and not the other things that personal brand brings, I actually think that formula works pretty well.
Yes.
So I've got a couple of other questions, and I think a direction that we could go in, but let's just get really clear, because I think some people, including myself, might still be a little bit, not that I need to be bought into personal branding necessarily, but I think I need to understand like what game I'm getting into, right?
Yeah.
So if you had to put a list of, here are all the pros, and you've talked about some of them already, right? Being able to just put your brand on something and it increases the value exponentially, being able to essentially print money, being able to move into another niche or another vertical, like you've talked about some of those things. So let's keep going on the benefits, and let's really look at, like, if I have a really strong personal brand, what else could be happening for me, and what are some other benefits of it?
Okay. I'm going to answer this question, but I'm going to answer this in terms of a question. Okay. So I don't know if you know this, but I don't make content until 2014. I'm 42 years old. Mm-hmm. And at some point I'm making content. And then somewhere along the way, you and I cross paths. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's in 2014. It's somewhere in there. Do you recall?
Yeah, I think it's 2017.
Oh, that early. And what did you see or hear that my name pops on your radar?
Someone actually recommended me to you, because they were like, you need to figure out like who are the people that creatives look up to. And it was like a list of people.
I see.
I think let's go. It was probably, are you saying like when you came on my radar?
Yes.
Let's say 2018 then. 2018.
Okay. That sounds better to me.
Yeah. And it was like, originally I was looking at people like Chase Jarvis, and things like that. And then, so I had never heard of you, and someone said to me, oh, you should check out Chris Do. And I remember like reading the kind of description of what you did, either on your YouTube channel or on your website. And I was like, oh shit, like that's what I'm trying to do. And so it was really about finding someone that was trying to do what I think the person was basically saying, look, get some kind of validation for the fact that these ideas have a bit of traction, and this is actually what people need help with.
Yeah.
And I think that's when I came across your stuff.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, since you mentioned Chase's name, Chase Jarvis, which I know from afar, what do you know about him today?
Nothing. He's gone off the radar a little bit.
See what I mean?
Yeah.
So your fear of like, once I pop,
if I saw him in the street, I probably would recognize him, and I probably would be like, hey, are you Chase Jarvis? Like, what are you doing these days?
Yeah, possibly, right? But harder every day that goes by that you don't see or hear his name anymore.
Right.
Like,
so you have to kind of like
Chase.
Yeah. So you kind of have to like maintain the personal brand. It's not just like one and done.
Yeah, there are levels, right? If you're Michael Jackson famous, you don't need to maintain anything. You're Oprah famous, you don't need to maintain. Like, there are levels to this. But I remember, I don't know where I was, but I was in Silicon Valley in the Bay Area, and we're talking, and everybody was talking about what is the company he had?
Who? Chase Jarvis?
Yeah.
Creative Live.
Creative Live. Everyone was talking about Creative Live. Like, Chris, you need to connect with Chase and what he's doing. It's amazing. Da, da, da. And he just got this investment money, and they're just going to be worth a lot of money. And I was like, wow, there's a lot of hype around this guy. I already knew who he was at that point. So at that level of fame, notoriety, so people are telling, this is a common theme here, where you don't do your storytelling, other people do the storytelling for you. You know you're onto something, right?
Right.
Whether that person told you about me or this other person telling me about Chase, it's like, boom, we're kind of there. And now fast forward like 10 years later, and it's not even 10 years, it's about 5-6 years later, we don't even know what he's up to anymore. He could be building empires. We don't know. He could be making $100 billion. I do not know. But all I know is that his name isn't being circulated anymore. No one's talking about it. I don't see him on the circuit. I don't know what's going on. That could just be my ignorance, everybody. So apologize, Chase, if you're listening to this. We've had friendly banter back and forth via DMs, but we've never spoken, I don't think, in person. Now, having said all that stuff, you can turn it off. It actually gets turned off for you. You didn't get a choice, because what you're saying is no longer popular, in demand, or you might have said something that alienated a lot of people. Okay, so we're going to be safe about that. So in 2018, somebody says, you need to check this guy out. And that's about a year after I started the Futur, because my former business partner and I, we split up, and then I start going all in on what I want to do. And it's like everything, when you focus in on something, then you don't have to compromise. You either succeed or you just crash. And like, now we know that no one's interested in that thing. So that's one of the benefits, that people tell your story for you. They enroll people beforehand. And we know this. When you are thinking about a restaurant, very few of us would actually go visit the restaurant, check out the menu, look at the kitchen. It's because somebody told us you should eat there. Whether it's a friend of a friend, or a Yelp review, or an Instagram influencer who's like, top 5 pizza places in LA. They're like, okay, that's the brand working for you.
Okay, so people talk about you, they tell your story, they recommend you.
Yes.
I guess the reason I want to challenge this is because I want to like make a real clear line, and maybe there isn't one, but I'm trying to make one between this idea, let's just call it the lifestyle business, and the personal brand.
Yes.
Because could you not argue that that benefit also sits for, say, Taki? Like, he's at the point where if you're a coach, someone's probably saying to you, hey, you need to go check out Taki. You need to go work with him. You need to go and look at his content.
Yeah, but there are coaches talking to other coaches still in the same vertical.
So the delineation is outside of your vertical.
Yeah. It has to be, because any real business has a reputation. Like, they make the best donuts. They are a great coaching community. Great. I got it. They do SaaS stuff. Okay, great. That's what happens.
So what are the benefits of that? Like, if we just go one layer deeper, why would I want someone outside of my niche talking about me and telling people about me? Surely I just want my ideal clients talking about me and telling people about me.
Yeah, well, then you just have a great lifestyle business.
Okay, so what are the advantages then of someone outside of my niche or my vertical or my industry knowing who I am or talking about me?
Well, let's look at it. You're not a graphic designer, are you?
No.
You don't make commercials for a living?
No.
Okay. So you and I are talking, and in your vertical that you're in, and where I started talking about stuff, we're not in the same vertical. So some other person in between us said, hey, there might be some value here, right? And that's where new opportunities open up. For example, you could be a guy who's like, Chris, I got $100 million. I love what you do. I want to invest in your company. Or I think you need to do this for our thing, our corporation, or I'm going to put you up and I want to introduce you to somebody else. And I believe that person was Daniel Priestley.
What do you mean?
You're the one who told me about Daniel.
I told you about Daniel, yeah.
Yeah, you told me about Daniel. So I don't even know Daniel. You're like, you got to read his book. Da, da, da. And eventually I do read his book. And maybe there was an introduction. I can't remember exactly how we connected. But then now I'm talking to Daniel. And fast forward a couple of years, when Daniel's in town, we have lunch or dinner. And he's like, hey, I'll support you, Chris. And whenever you're doing a talk, I'll support your event. I'll give you some money. Allow me to talk about my things. And so now we're talking about doors and opportunities that one cannot even predict. Right. And I don't want to name drop, but then I'm having dinner with Daniel, with Dan Martell, with Ryan Dice. And these guys are titans of their own space. I'm like, damn, what did I do to be here? And you know why? It's because another guy named Tim Francis put on an event, and he says, I want to introduce you to all the movers and shakers in town. Come and do an event with us. And he invites everybody. And then the influencers of the influencers are in the room, and we're having dinner together. Again, Tim helps people find the perfect assistant. Not in my vertical at all.
Okay.
So they're opening doors that you don't even know exist. That's the key.
Okay.
And it's not something that you can sit there on a spreadsheet and say, well, that was worth this amount, that wasn't. And it's not a dollars and cents equation. If you're trying to do this on a spreadsheet where numbers are involved, you're looking at this the wrong way. Because I said there are transactional things that you can do that literally measure, and there's a return on investment. But then there are relational things that are very hard to measure in the now, the here and now, right? But like
Yeah, and not
again,
everything has to be measured. And like last time you talked about,
yeah,
performance marketing versus brand, they're two very
yeah,
different things, right?
yeah.
Okay.
Like
So
Ryan, like for example, Ryan was on our pod, and Ryan Dice, old school marketer. I can sit there and talk to him if I wanted to, and he can just give me a piece of advice that would change the entire trajectory of my business. Now I have access to him and others like him, whereas before I wouldn't have at all.
okay. So
Think
that
about
that
that.
that makes sense. That's quite like a clear delineation versus Taki having to come up to you in that workshop and you not knowing who Taki was versus, oh my God, Taki Moore just walked into my workshop. So that's kind of
Yeah.
the difference we're talking about, right?
I mean, yeah, that's just your reputation, but we're talking about opportunities and people connecting things for you and having access. The other is just like, I know who you are before you walk into the room. There's a different um, value scale on each one of these things, but it didn't matter to me if I knew who he was. In fact, I'm pretty stupid when it comes to knowing people, right? And I'll tell you what I mean. When I go to do talks, I think most intelligent speakers research the other speakers because they use the green room as a way to network, and there's a way to build businesses together.
Mm-hmm.
I literally am in there. I'm like, I don't know. I'm just preparing for my talk. I'm listening to other speakers as if I'm hearing them the very first time. Didn't do any research. And then people come up to me like, dude, do you know who that is? I'm like, no, I do not. That person just exited out of a $300 million company. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I don't know. Why is that changing my perspective? I want to hear what they have to say. I want to see how they behave in the green room and on stage and after. That's what matters to me. And so there are opportunities like that would happen, but I'm just really interested in seeing who somebody is versus like, oh, I heard about them. So even if Taki was like, oh my God, Taki's in the room, like, okay, Taki's a coach, but he's like every person here. I'm going to try to give my best to every person. And should he chime in on things, I might listen to a little bit more, but I don't want to change the way I respond to him just because he's more famous than the other people.
Okay, so it's not about fame, it's about
No.
who people want to introduce you to without you making the effort, basically, or without you having to do the research or
Yeah, I think
right.
so. But I'm having a hard time quantifying this because I'm living in a more qualitative way. It's like, to answer your question, yes, but I don't think of it in that way.
Yeah, no, totally. I get that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what are some disadvantages of building a personal brand? And then we'll change gears a little bit.
I'll tell you all the disadvantages right now.
Okay.
Number one, it's a lot of work. It's
Yeah.
going to be at least 10 to 15% of your time to build something. It's like writing a book forever. Okay. So we know writing a book is no fun, but like you're putting together your thoughts and your ideas and sharing your philosophy and trying to help transform people's lives. And the deeper the impact that you have on people's lives, the more connective tissue, the stickiness of the relationship increases. There is no guarantee on return on investment. The payoff of any kind of benefit, it's nebulous at best, but it could be a year, it could be 3 years, it could be 5, it could be 7, it could be forever. And there's number 3, which is the most difficult thing for anybody to hear. You might not have it. When they're like, they perform on American Idol or X Factor or whatever, and they're like, I don't know what it is, but you got it. And if you looked
Yeah.
up it in the dictionary, we would see you. There's that je ne sais quoi. There's like a quality that people have, either in the way they phrase things, how they speak. For example, there was a parody on Family Guy about Morgan Freeman. Like, I discovered when I was 7 years old, people just like to hear me talk, and I'm just talking right now. So Morgan Freeman has an incredible voice that, for whatever reason, the way his body was structured, when sounds come out of his mouth, it hits us in the right way. Trustworthy, warm, endearing. He could be a horrible person, but the way he says things, we just like. Same thing with James Earl Jones. So they definitely have it. So when I describe this to people, your personal brand is manifested into things that are observable. Like intentions are good, but we can't see intentions. Intentions have to turn into action. So we talk about aesthetic. Like, you have an aesthetic, meaning you're a tall guy, you're a white guy, and you're pretty lanky.
Mm-hmm.
And whether you wish to take care of yourself or not will change the aesthetic of your physique, right? If you work out, if you don't work out, it will change how you look on camera. Number two, the aesthetic is translated into the clothes that you wear, the decisions, the personal decisions that you make, and that says something about you. There's your tone of voice, literally how you sound, but also the way that you speak, the words you choose to string together. So we know some people, they speak very monotone. Some people speak very staccato. Some people have that like nice legato. And then there's the actions that you take, the things that we can see you physically doing. Like if you spend an extra half an hour after delivering your keynote speech trying to help somebody, even though you're just helping one person, the rest of us can see, oh, Matt's not disappearing. Matt's a guy who's like here to try to help people because that's who he is, or he just vampired out of here and that's that. I'm not trying to cast judgment on anybody, but everybody has their own thing. So those are a couple of things, right? Like how you behave. Also, your mannerisms is another way that we can observe. So some people, there's a comedian that I watch. He has a stuttering problem or a stuttering challenge. He has a stutter. And so he just built it into his comedy routine. You know, Chris Rock, I think 90% of Chris Rock's comedy when he was at his peak is just the way he says it. Like the joke itself is really not that funny, but the way he says it, like how he swings at an up pitch, you know, relationships, how he does that, the high pitch thing at the end, it makes it really funny. Okay. So those are the things that people can observe, things that if you don't have it, I don't know what to do.
Yeah. And so, you only know if you've got it until you try it, I guess.
Yeah. And you got to try it for quite some time. Now, the weird thing is some people, I would just look at them and they'll talk and they'll do their thing. I'm like, you got it. You got it. I know I can spot talent and you got it. Now, whether you have the discipline to show up consistently, to share your gifts with the world, that's a whole nother issue. That's why there are so many failed actors and starlets in LA. Because they had it, but it wasn't enough, or they didn't apply it long enough. I interviewed Morgan J. Do you know Morgan J, the comedian?
No.
He's an auto-tune comedian.
Oh, yeah, I do know him.
Yeah, you know him, right? And so I interviewed him, and he goes, you know, Chris, I gave myself 10 years to make it. I was like on year 7 or 8. And then this one video on TikTok popped. It was his, what's your name, bro? And the guy's like, Ethan. And that's what popped.
Yeah.
So, you know, if he's like year 5, I'm out. And he talked about some of his friends who are comedians and they got out.
I guess the difference between someone like him and other, I guess, more artists is it genuinely is more black and white. Like if you aren't big, you kind of are no one. Whereas like I feel in the business world, you can be no one and still be big, if that makes sense. Like these guys really, they just want to like earn a living from doing stand-up, right? Like they're pretty happy. If you said, hey, we're going to guarantee you 150 grand a year and you could do stand-up for the rest of your life, but you're never going to have a Netflix special. You're never going to have a thing. I reckon like a large percentage of them would take that.
Possibly.
So like I get those examples, but I guess where I struggle is like this intersection between personal brand and business. But maybe I shouldn't be looking for that. Maybe I should just be ignoring that. But when I see people like you, and when I see people like James Martin, and when I see people like in our space, like even you know, Christy Campbell that we met at Adobe Max and people like that now who have got these big followings, and it clearly is really, really benefiting their business. Yeah. I'm like, there is some kind of correlation there. So can you talk just a little bit about the role of like audience size and followers in relation to a personal brand? Because it seems like that's a core component.
Yeah, there's some correlation there for sure. It's because it's social proof. And there's this line that I heard at a big creator meeting. They said social media is the new resume. And I believe that. So if you are the person who's got 3 million subscribers to your YouTube channel or something, that's how people will introduce you. This person has 3 million subscribers. I know this because of how people introduce me now. They literally look up your stats and they share that so matter of factly with people. I'm like, I wouldn't lead with that, but okay. And it's because it signals to the rest of the group, because we know how hard it is to get that. So it's like, I'm not saying it's equivalent to getting into Harvard or something, but there's some version of that lives on social where, he's got the gold plaque. He's got the diamond play button. And we're like, wow, he's the most followed XYZ, or she's the most followed blah, blah, blah. So what's happening here is these are all heuristics. We see that you won an award. We see that you've got a diploma. We've seen that you are a TEDx speaker. And all those things build credibility, because we're in a world where everyone's cynical. Everyone is very skeptical about whether or not you're the real deal or not. They're just looking for shorthand versions that don't have to think too much, like you're a person I should listen to or not. And they're making that decision like that, right? Like you search on YouTube and you see videos pop up. There's the one that's got 5 million views and the one that's got 5,000 views. You're like, well, let me watch the 5,000 view video. Very few people do that. I'm the sick individual who actually does that. I watched the one that doesn't have a lot of views and it's garbage. I've yet to see one where it's like, no, this is the superior video. And I don't know why it doesn't have the numbers, because there is such a thing called group intelligence. Statisticians know this. The group knows who's going to win. Do you know about this? Like, there is literally such a thing as called group intelligence.
No.
Okay. I listened to a science program called Radio Lab. It's a podcast. And you know how at the county fair where they like put marbles in a glass jar and like guess it and you win, closest guess wins $300 or $1,000, whatever. And all you have to do is put in $5 and you make a guess. And you know what? They have experts who go in and try to guess, and they're like champions of this guessing game. And they do worse than the median of all the guesses. So people come by 5 marbles, 5,000 marbles, 3,000. They take all those things and think they might throw out edge numbers, and then they take the median of the rest, the average of everything else. And that number almost always is the closest to what's actually in the jar, and almost always beats out the expert advice. So when we talk about restaurant reviews, hotel reviews, YouTube views, Instagram likes and engagement, unless it's all bot driven, it's usually that's the best. We figured it out collectively as a group without even talking to each other. So that becomes real interesting, right? So when we see James or Christy with such a big audience that's highly engaged, they're getting tons of opportunities. Speaking, book deals, new clients that seek them out. Because sadly, we do mistake fame with skill, with mastery.
And what pillar, so if we're looking at all of the different parts of personal brand, what pillar or what part is the audience part, and how much should we be focusing on that?
Well, I don't think we focus on the audience. We focus on communicating our beliefs and sharing our teachings with the world. And we try to get better at that. And then the audience will fall in line. So what we don't want to do is we don't want to do the Netflix version of this. The reason why Netflix can produce quote unquote hit shows is because they run algorithms on what people are watching. And then they say, well, 85% of our audience wants this kind of content. We will buy any script, produce any show that fits this bill. So they're letting the algo drive it. So there isn't, say, like a studio head that's like, I want to make these kinds of films. There's not like a vision behind it. And maybe the algorithm beats people, but I much prefer like there's an executive who's like really a lover of film and cinema. And it's like, you know what? People don't know they want this yet, but let's approve it. It's so weird. And we love it. Let's give this some money and opportunity and let it find its own audience. And we're okay with it not exploding. And eventually maybe it'll be a cult hit. We don't know. I much prefer that process. So Matt, you and everyone who's listening to this need to figure out, who am I? What are my stories? What do I stand for? What do I want to rid the world of? And what are the teachings and life experience that I have that can ease the pain of others who are pursuing similar things. And we start to develop the craft of teaching and speaking and communicating and writing. And we benefit from that because we're better communicators. One of the things I learned, which I didn't know, which is the benefit, was when I started to teach, I became a better designer. I became a better director, and I grew my own self-confidence. And it's really weird. So the reason why this happens is because I live with my thoughts and my impulses, and I do what I do because it seems instinctively the right thing to do. It's not until I have to explain to someone what it is I'm doing, why I'm doing it, that I truly understand what the heck I'm doing. And by understanding what I'm doing, all of a sudden I have great clarity on how I make decisions, so now I can make decisions faster and I can communicate this to more people. So I found that the 10 to 15 years in which I was teaching before making content to be the training ground for me to be a public speaker and a teacher in the format that we're talking about. So the best way I know how to build your personal brand is to become a better teacher. And if that's your goal, I can help you. If that's not your goal, I don't know what to do.
I'm wondering, is there like a, I don't know what the word is, but like, is there a version of this that is like a bit smaller? Because I don't know about anyone else listening, but I feel quite intimidated by the journey of building a personal brand based on what you've spoken about so far.
Okay.
And I want, like, content excites me, exploring who I am excites me, having impact excites me. Like, all of the things that I see people building a personal brand doing excites me. But when you move it onto the level of like, have you got the it factor, and what's like, you know, when we were first talking about it and you were telling me about like dress sense and style and like, what do you want people to remember you for and all that, like when we get into that territory, for me, it kind of gets a little bit overwhelming and intimidating. Is there like a creative's personal brand that people listening to this could all get excited about because it has most of the benefits of personal brand without some of the downsides?
Okay, that question took a strange turn for me. Like I thought it was going here, and you went, and I'm like, what? Okay. Well, you said something like some of this sounds intimidating to me, but you didn't mention which part was intimidating, because you're like, I get this. Is it the it factor, if you have it or not?
I think that's part of it.
Okay.
And maybe like having to manufacture that. So I think about people like Ed Sheeran in my head, or like Calvin Harris, right? I remember seeing Calvin Harris at this festival like years and years ago, and he was this like skinny guy with like this black kind of hair, a bit emo, and like not really anything about him. And then like 3 years later, he was on the front of like Men's Health magazine or something, and all of a sudden it was this whole new reinvented Calvin Harris, and you know, he was super cool and hanging out with David Guetta and all these people all of a sudden.
Yeah. Okay. So wait, when you expand beyond the question and you tell us things, more stories, then I get confused what the original question was. So I was about to say something.
It was
the part was, what intimidates you? And then you said what?
Yeah. So what intimidates me is this idea that you have to like manufacture a version of yourself that appeals to a mass audience, basically.
Okay, you're using very violent language here. And it's not a surprise, but I'm saying you are. The way you like manufacture to appeal to mass audience. What have I said today that feels like you have to manufacture anything to appeal to people? Because I haven't said anything like that at all.
No, I think
these are old ideas we're carrying around.
Yeah, okay? Absolutely. There's like an image I have in my head. Maybe. Yeah.
And so I also want to say this, like, let's just say that it is a singing competition. And you're not sure you want to get in the queue so that the judges can decide whether or not you get a shot to be on stage to audition or not. But before you get in that queue, you're like, well, what's the merch line going to be like, Chris? How do I do this on a sustainable basis and raise a family, go on tour? And I'm like, dude, get in line first.
Yeah, step you've got to want it bad enough, right?
Well, no, you're just thinking way beyond. You're thinking about all the problems and the benefits way beyond. Like, once you've achieved it, like, how do you come back down from the mountain? Like, how about you just wait in the sun for 2 hours, and wait in his queue. And then when you have your shot, do the audition. And if you get to the next round and you get to go live on TV, and then people will vote. And then there's a long process here, right? It's like we want to be like, well, what's the ninth sport in the decathlon? I'm like, how about you just put on your pants first and we'll figure out what we need to do.
Yeah, and that's fair because I tell that to my clients. So
right, of course. It's like step one is step one. Don't think about step 37.
But I guess they're already bought into the idea that they want the outcome.
Well, so here's the thing. Every time you do something new, okay. Are you an adventurous eater?
Not particularly, no.
Do you eat sushi?
Yes. Had sushi tonight.
Like raw fish sushi.
Not like nothing proper baked. Japanese sushi.
Yeah, proper Japanese sushi.
But not something I'd be doing every Saturday night. Yeah.
Oh, okay, good. And the first time you saw raw fish on the plate, did you like, this is going to be freaking delicious? Or you're like, oh, let's try and let's see what happens.
I was like, what the hell is this? I asked 1,000,001 questions about it.
Yeah. I'm sure you did, right? Yeah. And I got to say, I love sushi today, but not at the beginning. Yeah. In fact, I mistakenly ordered the raw tuna bowl and it came out. I'm like, who ordered this? Like, that's your order, man. I'm like, no, there's just raw fish on this. What am I going to do with that? And back then I was a student, so I didn't have a lot of money and I forced myself to eat it. And I was just trying not to vomit. Right? So that's what it's like right now. And you're like, well, when am I going to make sushi, Chris? I'm like, how about you just acclimate your palate to the idea that this is what you want to try? And that's all it is. So we want so many guarantees, so much commitment. We want all the answers done before we even take step one. And sooner or later, you'll figure out, I'm not cut out for this. I don't want this, or the world doesn't want this from me. And you can either adjust or you can say this is it. But I don't think we could sit here and like, well, here's a better example for you. You're like, well, what's going to happen when I write a best-selling book? Like, well, how's my life going to change, Chris? I'm like, how about you buy a typewriter first? You know what I mean? Like a word processor. Like, why don't you just put words to paper and let's see what happens and see if you have ideas.
That's a really interesting example, though. So I wrote a book because of Daniel Priestley.
Yeah.
And Daniel's got a mantra that's like, the book that changes your life isn't the one you read, it's the one you write. And he spent 5 years convincing me that writing a book is the best thing that you can do for your business.
Yeah.
But it took 5 years for me to really buy into that idea. By the time I came to sit down and write the book, I was genuinely excited to write the book and I was all in. I was like, I am finishing this goddamn book. Like, I don't care if it kills me. I'm writing this book. And the same with the second one. I know now, because of the first one, the benefits of having a book, right?
Yeah.
So I was like fully bought into the outcome, even if it wasn't a bestseller, it wasn't anything. Having a physical book and actually just saying I've written a book and feeling proud that I've written a book was enough to get me to write the book. So I had to be like bought into the concept first before I put the time and the effort and the energy, because I could put my time and effort and energy in loads of different places. And if I figure out that like the lifestyle business thing is actually like a better outcome, even though it's still really, really hard work, like, it's like, what mountain do I want to climb? Not do I want to climb the mountain?
Yeah. So here's where I would say to you, be the student you want your students to be. Meaning you don't want to sit there and convince anybody for 5 years to try the program. It's a waste of your freaking time.
Yeah.
Right. Be your own ideal student. I am my own ideal student because when my business coach told me, Chris, you should do public speaking, I'm like, okay. I didn't ask him what the benefits are, what the first step. I just went and did it and I bombed. I'm like, okay, this didn't work. He's like, well, try it this way. I'm like, okay. You go talk to the client. I'm like, okay. Can you help me? What do I need to do? And then we just did it. And everything in my life is just lined up. Right. So imagine yourself 5 years younger than you are today, having done all that you've done. Wouldn't you have preferred this outcome than to wait 5 years to write that book?
Say that again. Imagine if I was 5
years.
Yeah,
it took you 5 years to write the book, right? Meaning 5 years to decide that you wanted to write the book, not 5 years to literally writing the book.
Yeah.
So imagine where you are now, but just 5 years younger.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't you prefer that outcome?
You're going to hate this answer, but no.
Okay, why?
because
I won't hate it. It's just your answer.
because I feel like I had to go through the processes and learn the things that I did in order to actually write the book that I'm proud of. So maybe that's a bad example, but like, no, I think I was unsure because I didn't feel like I had anything valuable to speak about in the book.
All
And
right,
I
let
think
me
I
ask
had
you
all
this
of
question.
these, like, yeah.
Is your first book the best book you could have written?
In my life or at that time?
In your lifetime?
No, absolutely not.
Okay. Would the second book be better than the first book?
I hope so.
Will the third book be better than the second book?
Yeah.
Your logic would say yes.
Yeah.
So in order to get to our second or third book, we got to write the first book.
Hmm.
And the longer you delay doing the thing that you know you should be doing, even though it's painful to you, the longer you delay your progress.
I agree with that, apart from the
Yeah.
sentence you said, knowing the thing that you should be doing.
Expand, please.
Because I don't know that I should be building a personal brand. Like,
Oh, you do know you should. You know why?
Okay.
You know why?
Why?
It's the strongest resistance that you have.
Okay.
I believe this. The universe tells you what you should do, but we
Yeah.
fight it, and we fight it, and we fight it. Like the universe at some point said, "Hey, you got to start a business." Like, no, I'll just get a job, or you know what? Or the universe told you should read this book, and you don't. You just delay, and then you should write this book, or you should go to this event, and you don't. And that's how you know that's the thing you're supposed to be doing, because the things have no resistance, require no challenge, no growth, no stretching. And I know this for a fact. I know I'm supposed to be working on X, Y, and Z, and I keep procrastinating. I'm like, oh, I don't have time today. I don't know if this is going to work. I already know this is the thing I'm supposed to be doing. And you and I have coached enough people in our lifetime. When we look at them, like, and I don't think you're thinking this, but I'm thinking this. Hey, dummy, if you just did the thing I told you to do, you'd be super successful. But
Yeah.
we're going to
I
go through
definitely
this
have
monkey dance.
Multiple. I definitely have.
You have
multiple
versions of
thoughts
that,
about this.
right? Yeah, it's like, why don't you just do the thing that's most natural for you to do and be super successful in this lifetime? But such is the human experience.
I'm going to push back a little bit on this.
Push.
Because I think the premise of what you're saying is right. I usually have this feeling where it's like, oh God, I know I should be doing this thing, but I have loads of resistance to it. I don't feel like that about personal branding. I feel like that about certain things in business, but I don't feel that about personal branding. And I think I'm still trying to decide, like, is it worth it? Like, there's a bunch of stuff in business that I have resistance to that I probably know I should be doing more of. And it's like, I know, it's like an intuitive knowing, like, oh, do you know what? If I just did more of this, I would be way more successful.
Well, let's dismantle this really quickly and then we'll move on. Okay. I don't want to get caught up in semantics, but we can agree that there's resistance to doing this.
Yes.
And that's the first sign that this is what you should be doing.
Okay.
And the reason why we're having this conversation is some part of your subconscious says, there must be something here for me to get into a conversation with Chris about this. Yeah, and every single time we get together,
I'm curious,
Sharjah, sure. Dubai, we're having the same freaking conversation.
Yeah.
So
sure.
There's something there. So you might be seeing it from a lens of, God, some of these people are doing things that's working out pretty well for them. And then the resistance is telling you, nah, this ain't going to work. Like, I know, yesterday I went to work out in the gym and I was like, I was just feeling really lazy a couple days, you know? You don't go working out for a couple days and it's like, oh, it's so hard to start again. I know where I should be doing it. I don't want to do it. I make up all kinds of reasons, but until I do it, I don't see the benefit of it. So you and I'll bet you right now, just because of how many times you and I have talked about this, it could be 5 years from now when you actually start. I don't know when it's going to start. But when you do it, I'll sit back there with you a little bit older, say, I told you. I've known this about people, not you, specifically about people where I'm like, oh, I know where this road ends and it's going to end here. Like, no, it's not. I'm like, okay. 6, 7 months, 10 months later, like, you're right. I'm like, I know. I'm like, that partner, bad partner. I'm like, no, you're wrong. 2 years later, lawsuits. I should have listened to you. Like, I know. I already know. Because objectively, when you look at what's happening, you can see it. The person who's in the bubble can't figure it out. But I'm just telling you, I already know. I'm not trying to do this in a smug kind of way, but
No. And I agree. And I appreciate that directness. I guess up until this point, I haven't ever felt like you've directly said to me, do you know what you need to do next, Matt? Like, you really just need to build your personal brand. Like, if I was going to focus on anything, it would just be that. I feel like they've always been curious conversations about,
Yeah.
hey, I'm in Sharjah. Oh, interesting. How did that opportunity come about? And oh, this is pretty cool.
Right.
And so it's been more like me working out, like, what else is Chris doing compared to me that give him these opportunities? And do I want these kind of opportunities? Like, is this what I'm really looking to optimize for? Is this really what I'm trying to build? And I'm always asking myself that question. So like, if you're sitting here and I say, because when I'm coaching my clients, I always start with, what do you ultimately want? Like, what is it you actually want? And I think that's why I've been digging into this idea of like, what are all the advantages of building a personal brand? Do I actually want that stuff? Is that what I'm trying to build in my life? If I was 100% certain that it was, and you were like, dude, the number one way to get all of the things you want is to build a personal brand, I'm in. I don't care if it takes me 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. I don't, like, I'm in. Like, I'm dedicated to doing what I need to do in order to like get what I want. I'm just not 100% convinced that personal brand is going to get me all of those things that I want. It sounds to me more like the lifestyle business and doing whatever they're doing, the Dan Boltons, the Tacky Moores, etc., is going to get me more of what I want.
Yeah.
So I guess that's where I'm challenging it, and that's where I'm like pushing back a bit.
I want you to push back because it makes a much more interesting conversation for you than like, what's step 1, 2, 3? Because that's the easy part. I already know how to do that.
Yeah,
that's really easy. But I want to go through this with you as long as it's necessary, and it could be 5 years. I don't know. We'll see. Now,
it's going to be a hell of a long podcast. Everyone's going to be like, Chris, I've unsubscribed. It's just a conversation with you and Matt Essam trying to convince him about personal branding.
Yeah, but I'm almost certain of this, and people let us know in the comments and elsewhere in social that I am Matt. Thank you for taking the time and the patience to work this out because I was unconvinced and I'm not sure. I don't see my job as a teacher to convince you of anything. All I have to do is ask you questions and ask you to check in with yourself and see what makes the most sense and to point out where you're being inconsistent with your own logic. And then you decide, because let's just be really honest and frank here. I don't give a flying F what you do. It's your life. It's your business. You get to do whatever you want. And if you become rich and famous, what does that got to do with me? It's got nothing to do with me. It's because you decided. So all I can do is ask you questions, get you to think Socratically, like, okay, I'm going to ask you these questions, then you'll find out. And we'll see where I see some holes in the logic. I will point out like, well, they're not the same. And if you agree with me, at least we can move forward. If we can't, I don't know what else to do. Right. And so far, where there's like logical argument, we can agree. But your own motivation, I do not know. But I do know one thing. What we all desire as human beings is greater amount of freedom. To have agency over our life, to work as much as we want or not at all, to have the things that we want or not have them. But the freedom is, I think, one of the highest pursuits of our life. Probably the other highest pursuit is to know who the hell we are, to make a difference in this world. But that's the cool part. If I remember correctly, I asked you last time, what would your dream life be like? And you didn't say, well, to coach 3,000 people or to run a multi-level marketing program on coaching. It wasn't that. It's like, I want to do public speaking and I want this many gigs at this price point. I'm like, it's super tangible. Yeah. I didn't forget about that, by the way.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
So if we say that's the goal, what is the most optimized path to getting to there? I already know the answer. The real problem is if that's really what you want or not. I know for a fact for me, I know from the outside, it looks like it's all craziness. And you're like, do you ever sleep? I'm like, sometimes. But I am living my best life today because I've also been freed from the bottom 2 layers of the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? I get to pursue what I want. And for some people, look at my schedule and my life, like, that's bananas. But it's crazy only because you don't understand what it is that I want. This is what I want. I want to have intellectually stimulating conversations with people, small and large, meaning small groups and large groups, to the benefit of a larger group who's listening in. Because the one thing that I wish for the world is if we could just have be a fly on the wall or to be a passenger on this journey of self-improvement. Because if you were there when somebody was inventing something or painting their masterpiece or sculpting something out of marble and you get to see over their shoulder what they were doing, it would be an incredible experience for humanity. And we have the tools and the technology to do it today, which were not available to us before. That's what I'm interested in doing. And I will be, and I guarantee you, a very wealthy person in this pursuit. It's not happening right now, but I guarantee it would happen as long as I don't expire before it happens. That's just a game. Can I play the game long enough for that to happen? And I believe I will.
I love that. Yeah, I think I need to reconsider, because really, if you said to me, Matt, you can have the life you've got now, or you can add like an extra 20 speaking gigs around the world to your calendar, what would you choose? I think I would probably choose the life I have now, because I actually have more freedom now. I'm not answering to anyone. I can travel the world in pretty nice luxury, and I get to meet super interesting people, and I get to hang out with cool, interesting people. I'd like to be able to just pick up the phone to Debbie Millman and say, hey, do you want to come on the Creative Courage podcast? And she's like, yeah, sure. But like, I know you know Debbie, and I know James knows Debbie, and I know like a bunch of other people. So it probably wouldn't be that hard, really. And like, maybe I'm wrong until I try, but like, I've had some cool people on the podcast already, and like, I'd like to maybe get paid to do that, to travel to New York and interview Debbie and things like that. But like, I don't feel like I'm a million miles away from where I want to be. Yeah. And I'm just trying to figure out whether the long, hard slog that you described at the beginning of this podcast of building a personal brand is the way to get where I want, or if there's other ways, basically.
Yeah. You know what? The better outcome of that isn't like, who do I know who can connect me to Debbie? It's when you're like, Debbie, would you like to be on the pod? She's like, I was waiting for you to ask me.
Yeah, or she reaches out to me and says,
yeah,
hey,
that's the outcome of this, right?
Yeah.
So I think because you're so grounded in reality of like input, output, and dollars and cents and quantifying everything, it's very hard for you to imagine the unimaginable. Right? When you were a designer, you had to imagine the unimaginable. You had to put into existence things that were just electrical impulses, chemical impulses in somebody's brain. And you made quite literally something from nothing. So I tell you right now, the friends that I have that aspire to do what they want in their lives, it's almost always the same thing. I want to do whatever the hell I want. I'm going to be paid an outrageous amount of money to do that in the time in which I want to do it. And I guarantee you it's not running your lifestyle business. For example, if you're like, you know what really gives me joy is to do 10 podcasts a year, do 7 speaking gigs, and just do whatever I want with whoever I want, and they all say yes, and I make $200, $1 million a year, that would be the life that you want. For me, it's like, well, you know what? I get paid to help people. That's the life that I want. So sometimes it happens on a stage, sometimes it's in a workshop, sometimes it's on a pod, a fireside chat. I just get paid to help people because that lights me up to know that before I expire, I get to help people to lessen their suffering, to hasten an outcome for them, or to provide them a frame that they did not consider before.
Do you believe you need a personal brand in order to do that?
No, the personal brand is built because I'm doing that.
Okay, well, in that case, I'm sold, because in that case, it's just inevitable, because that's what drives me too. And that's, I think, why we connected originally. I just get confused because I see Taki doing that, and he helps a shit ton of people, but doesn't have the personal brand that we described at the beginning.
Correct. And I know Taki listens to our podcast sometimes and to our YouTube. So Taki, if you're listening to this and you're like, F you, mother effers, I'm doing just fine. That's not what it is about. And I said to Taki during one of his workshops, if you ever want help with your personal brand, reach out to me. I'll help you.
Okay. So that's like the next level for him.
Only if he wants it. I'm not here to convince anybody of anything. No, all I can do is invite people.
Don't do
you
this,
see what
Chris.
I'm saying, though? But
I
you know,
see
the
what you're
funny
saying,
thing
but
is,
it's like, if you want help with this thing, it's like, reach out to me. But then it's like, okay, yeah, totally. But what if you don't convince me? Like, helping people is about
convincing anybody.
No, but helping people is about helping them to see a new reality, right? Like you just said. And you can only help them see it.
Yeah, I can help them to see a new reality, but I don't want to help them first ask, do I need to see the new reality? I want them to show up and say, I want this thing. What does it take? Help me. I'm committed to doing this thing, and I will help them.
I agree.
Because, okay, look at this.
Like, as well.
Here we go. Look, I aspire to be the Harvard of whatever I'm doing. Harvard is the oldest university in America, right? It's a hallmark of success. Harvard gets way more applicants of overqualified students than they have to turn down more qualified students than they accept. We understand that. And they exist in a very rare position where I don't even know that they make great people. The people are great before they even get to Harvard. Harvard has just built a system of attraction and filtering that they already know you're going to be great. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So the question is always, are you great because Harvard made you great, or are you great before and they just happen to stamp you and saying, we approve? I believe it's the latter of the two. So it's not in their interest to try to convince you to go to Harvard. They just are Harvard. So I'm here as a potential counter voice within the world to say, if you really believe in helping people and you want to be a transformative teacher and you believe my style of doing it can help you, I'm here to help you. Otherwise, need not apply. I don't care. My life is just going to be fine without you. So I don't want to convince anybody of anything. But if
I
you
understand
want
the
to
metaphor,
do what I'm saying, then I'm here for you.
People know the benefits of having a Harvard degree over having a other university degree, right? Like they
Yeah.
know the benefits. They don't have to
And
convince
how do they know
anyone
this? How do they know this, though?
because of the people that will only employ you if you have a Harvard degree.
Well, they know this because the doors are open and you physically can see the reaction when somebody's like, oh, I graduated from Harvard MBA, blah, blah, blah. You know, they get all, oh my God, instant social proof, right? We see this on Shark Tank. I'm a West Point graduate. I'm a Harvard MBA. I'm a Stanford. I'm a Princeton grad. And they're like, fudge, you're accomplished.
Mm-hmm.
So if people don't recognize having social proof as an accelerant to whatever they're doing, then I ain't your guy. Just not your guy.
I'm confused because I thought social proof was about the size of your audience.
Social proof is the size of your audience is a artifact of the impact that you make as a teacher.
Ah, okay.
But I said that 3 times today, but this will be the 3rd time.
Okay.
So if you think about James Martin,
Yeah.
James used to show his logo work, and it was, you know, his account is growing. And then he did this thing like, you know, like spacing issues.
Mm-hmm.
And the more videos he makes about spacing issues, because he's teaching people to understand things optically, and he's creating very simple formulas for them to do spacing, his account grew really fast. So he needed to figure out his style of teaching that was congruent with who he is, that made sense for people. So it is a meeting, a merger of audience need and delivery style to expertise and personality. And the meeting in the middle is where the magic is. That's it. It's not manufacturing anything. Now, I don't know if you know James that well, but he's ADHD or ADD.
Yeah, I know him pretty well.
He has a hard time articulating long, complex concepts together. So he's like, I don't even need to speak. I just give funny reactions. And he's very emotive in his face. And he's done enough logo work that the body of the work allowed him to see patterns, and he leaned into that. So I want you to imagine this visual, because I'm going to make it for one of my slides at some point in the future. You know the volume dial, if you're an old school analog person or even an analog digital person, there's a dial, and the dial would be from 0 to 10, and 10 is like really loud. So I want you to be on a 13, but we're not turning up the volume. We're just turning up the amount of you-ness there is in the world. So this is a meter for how much you get to show up. And my job as a person who's helping people do this is to excavate and remove away all the garbage that we think we're supposed to be in this life to reveal the real you. You squared, you to the power of you, turned to 10 or 13, not to a 2. Everybody thinks they show up like really themselves, but that's not really who you are. Because you've been conditioned, you've been socialized to show up in this world as a certain way. And you've been polluted by a lot of thoughts by people who raised you, by school, by society, to be a certain person, to fit in a certain mold. I want to help you be free of that. And if that sounds like magic to you, it sounds like that's your jam, I'm here. We can jam together.
See, now I'm sold. You did it. It just took you an hour and 40 minutes.
No, it took me 10 years because of how often we've talked about this. So
Yeah.
none of this is manufactured. None of this is compliance with what the public wants. It's really about understanding who you are and letting that shine. It takes some time for me to figure it out with each person. Like, oh, you're this person. And you know what will happen? They'll deny it. They're like, no, I can't do that. That's not me, Chris. I'm like, okay, well, I'll be here when you're ready to see it.
Okay.
But I'll tell you something. I'll tell you
Yeah.
something, right? When I was younger, I'm thinking I'm 16, 17 years old. I love to read comic books. I was drawing a lot. And people were like, whoa, my classmates, my friends were like, you're really good. I'm like, no, I'm never as good as the people that I'm looking at in the books. A family friend came by. His name is Mark. He's a white guy, Caucasian guy. And we called him Uncle Mark. And Uncle Mark's like, hey, kiddo, what do you want to do when you're done with school? Like, what are you going to do? And he goes, I see that you have a real talent for this. I don't know that much about what you do, but you're really good at art and design. Is this what you want to do? And you know what I was? I was really dismissive. Like, no, Uncle Mark, that's not what I want to do. He goes, is it a problem with your old man? Do you want me to talk to him? Because I know, sometimes your parents won't let you do this kind of stuff. He was a very understanding person. And I'm like, no. But you know what I was thinking in my mind? I'm not going to make money doing this. I don't want to be poor, because society at that point had told me, not directly, but if you want to have a good life, do not pursue the arts. That's a path towards suffering and poverty. And I could only see examples of like poor people doing creative things. In fact, there was this woman, classmate of mine in high school. Her name's Shaban. And Shaban says, oh, you should design logos. I'm like, who would sit there and draw letter forms by hand? That's so stupid. So both these people knew something about me that I wasn't ready to accept. I knew it was truthful. That's why it hurt so much. That's why I was so dismissive of it, because I'm like, I know that's what I want to do. The child in me is like, I'm screaming, please let me do that. But the adult in me is like, that's a path towards poverty and suffering. Now, surprise, surprise, I go to art school and I do logo design and I do identity design. And this is what I do now. And that's why I share that story, because we all have that in us. I'll tell you, Matt, you need to do this thing because I see that in you. You told me something, you've revealed a part of you. And you're like, no, Chris, I'm not going to do that. That's stupid. People will laugh. That's dumb. I don't see a future in this. I'm like, okay. But to each in their own time.
I'm totally up for going on that journey. Like, if this is what I'm talking about in terms of like selling the outcome or selling the benefit, like I got to know what I'm signing up for. If you're saying to me, this personal branding journey is really about discovering who you are, which is what you said at the beginning.
Yes.
But it's really about being able to bring more of yourself and your qualities and your skills into the way that you run your business and the people that you teach and the people that you coach, so that you can get more fulfillment, so you can make more impact in those people's lives and find the thing that is your way of doing this thing so it resonates with more people. Then sign me up. I don't care if that means I have an extra 5 followers or an extra 5 million followers. Like, that makes no difference to me. But now I'm clear on what I'm signing up for, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Good. If you listen back to episode 1, you'll be shocked to discover this is what we talked about, but this will be real interesting. And if you follow me on social, you'll know I've said this. The more you are, the more you are. And people are like, what the hell did you just say?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right? I like repetition. So this is an intelligence filter, because people are like, that's so stupid. I'm like, oh, okay, if you say so. The more you are, the more you are. And so my philosophy, my take on this whole personal branding journey is to help you be more you. And this is not my phrase, but to be the youest you can be. And I even leave out all the other stuff so you can impact this, but it's just like, you know what? Tell me a person who doesn't want to be more themselves, and I'm like, I got nothing for you.
Do you know why I think these 2 episodes were so powerful for me, at least, and hopefully the people listening, is because what we just did is we just separated the signal from the noise. And it took us like 2 full episodes to get there. But I think the reason why I was so confused when you started talking about this at the beginning about being more of yourself is I couldn't see how any of that correlated to the things that people online talk about when they talk about personal branding, about building your audience and your income. And you're like, no, it's not related to that. So I'm like, well, what is it related to? And what is all of this about? But now the way that we've gone through this whole process and I've kind of challenged those things, I've realized that personal branding is something I can sign up for because my mission, like yours, is to help more people, but to be able to do it in a way that feels unique to me, like I'm being myself. And the way that I'm explaining this thing resonates with more people who are maybe a little bit like me. And
Yeah.
because I am able to be myself, I'm actually having more impact with those people rather than trying to be cookie cutter or trying to look at what anyone else is doing and fit my thinking into this box or this way of being. I'm actually being my true essence, my authentic self. And that's where the real power is. That's really where I'm going to change more lives and have more impact and actually change the way people think about things by doing that, by going through that process. And that's something that excites me.
Good. I'm glad that we're finally there. Right. I for like to beat a dead horse here, I want to put this out there. Like I live with vitality, with a great life force because I'm connected to my higher self and a higher purpose. And you and Jody Cook and everybody in the circle, like, how is he messaging me at this hour and this hour? Because they're on different time zones, but like, what kind of sleep? And it's like, you know what? I sleep as much as I need to. Whenever I'm tired, I just go to sleep. And when I feel called to, I just wake up. Very little of my life is actually scheduled. And I have a lot of freedom to do whatever it is I want. And it's a beautiful life that I get to live and to be sometimes loved, to be respected, to be more of myself. It's a beautiful thing. It's a gift I wish I could give to every single person. When I go out and I dress in a funky way, and it used to be met with some ridicule, it still is online, so but it doesn't matter to me. But now people are like, "How are you rocking that skirt right now with those pants and the what?" And I'm like, "Let me teach you." I'm like, "I will pay you to teach me." I'm like, "This is fantastic because I'm just getting to be me." And I'll share this one thing, and maybe we wrap on this. We are historically the worst judge of our own value and impact and our own uniqueness. Historically speaking, every single person cannot see their gift in the world. It's not until you share that gift with people that you start to get this signal sent back to you. This is what you're doing for people, with people. Okay. So I'm doing a talk. This is recent. And somebody will come up or the organizer will say, you know what, Chris, everybody is just feeling it right now. I'm like, what is that? Because I don't know what you're feeling. Tell me, please. And they're saying something to the effect of, let's just talk about the tonality of your voice and how you communicate, to the philosophy behind what you say and what you stand for. There's a soulfulness to it. We could listen to you all day long. And that is basically someone saying, we love you for being exactly you. And whether you get paid for that or not, it's irrelevant at this point. Whether or not 5 people follow you or not or buy into your program, it doesn't matter to me. I just get the freedom to be me and to be celebrated and to be loved for that is what I think our life is about. Getting to that essence of who you are. And you said the word essence. And I think that's it. So when people are like, I don't want to do this, I'm like, okay, I don't know what the other option is, but you go do you. And you and I will talk offline about the people pursuing the almighty dollar. And we're like, yeah, I guess you'll be rich, but you live poorly. I'd rather live richly. Yeah.
Yeah. A
Final
rich
thoughts,
life
Matt?
is about more than just the number in your bank account, right?
Yeah. And you said to me before, on and offline, you don't need that much to live well. But now we have to get into higher purpose, higher self, and to be connected to that and to be, I mean, I don't know about you. I do love myself very much, but it doesn't hurt when somebody's like comes up to you and it's like, you know what? You literally, as a line, is probably the best line ever somebody has ever given to me. You changed the atmosphere for me. Like, damn. I don't even know what that means. It's so poetic. I'm like, but I think I know what it means. That's a pretty cool thing to be able to do that for one person. And if you're willing, Matt, I believe I can help you get there.
Yeah, and the cool thing is I do get to do that with people already,
Yeah.
but like to amplify that would be amazing. Like I get some incredible messages from people online, but more importantly, like the people that actually pay me money still stick around 10 years later and still come back and pay me money. And I have some amazing testimonials, and I know I've genuinely changed people's lives. So I already get to do that. I think what I would like to do is maybe do it at more scale.
Yeah. Yeah. And getting that note from some young person I would never meet, probably saying that they lost their father and they went through a really dark time and were just questioning the things. It won't get darker than that. But then like I stumbled on a piece of your content. He helped me find my way back. That person will probably most likely never buy a single thing from us. But that's my life force. That's the deposit I make in the karmic equity bank. I'm good with that. And surprisingly, this is very good for business. All right. So on that note, Matt, we'll wrap up this episode. Thank you for being so vulnerable, so real, so argumentative, so stubborn, and every other word I can imagine in there, for poking holes in things and demanding clarification on things. And if you are like Matt, thank you for hanging in there with us, getting to the end of this episode. If you have questions, just reach out to me on social, drop me a link. And if you ever run into me in the streets, please don't be shy. I am. Say hello, and I'd be happy to say hello to you and take a picture with you or whatever. This is my life's work, so I'm never bothered by it. And on that note, thanks, Matt, for being here.
Thanks for having me as always, Chris.
If you've enjoyed this video, I want to remind you about Content Lab, something that I've launched, and it's designed to help coaches, content creators, and authors just like you create content that consistently cuts through the clutter.